Daddy gets lost. Daddy gets lost. Daddy gets lost. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenge of being a man in modern society in whatever the hell that even means. Firstly, I'd just like to say do subscribe to Daddy Eats Last on iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review. And tell your mates about the podcast, especially if they are guys. Most of all, thanks for listening to the podcast, Daddy Eats Last. It's almost been a year, so it's a time to celebrate. And a bit like me, today I turned 40. This is often thought of as a landmark age, like turning 10 or 13 or 18 or maybe 21. However, it's also usually defined by one simple, undeniable fact. You're getting older. My 3-year-old tells me this every time I ask him how old I am. I am 3. You are 40, he says, followed by a cackle. Thanks, little buddy. Does turning 40 itself bother me? Not really. But am I going to celebrate turning 40? Well, nothing really in any sort of big sort of way. I'm really only one day older, but overnight maybe you do become more aware of mortality. Well, really your own mortality, to be honest. So does turning 40 itself bother me? Not really. Does getting older bother me? Well, yeah, of course it does. Take a look around you, or as most people do, look down on that device you have in your hand, probably where you're listening to this podcast. Younger is everywhere. And because of this, we often fight to maintain some kind of evolutionary grip on our youth. Just look, anti-aging this, take that pill to do that, or get that up, or get it up, dye this hair, wax that hair, ditch the dad body. None of that really bothers me. That part of aging is inevitable. Things are going to sag, and things are going to stop working sometime. There are also a lot of upsides to getting older. I can look back and see that I've learned a hell of a lot and done a hell of a lot since I turned 30. People grossly overestimate what they can do in 12 months, but massively underestimate what they can do in 5 or 10 years. We did touch on this briefly in a previous episode of Daddy Eats Last, how different my life is now compared to 10 years ago. Just a small summary. Then, I was still working in my first proper job that I got as a graduate. I was living in the outer northern suburbs of Melbourne, and I felt unhappy a lot. Now, I started my own business. I'm living near the water, which helps me endlessly, and I feel a lot happier. In between the then and the now, there is a hell of a lot of the detail, including in no particular order, the point where I had less than $20 to my name. I mean, I couldn't even withdraw my net worth from the bank. The point where I was working 100 hours a week, every week. The point where I was walking barefoot in the rain because I couldn't understand or I couldn't cope. The point I stopped drinking for over 100 days because alcohol was starting to dictate my life. The point I stood where I wanted with a media pass around my neck. That was an achievement. The point where my grandfather went downhill mentally and then died. The point where I got married. The point when I had a kid. And the point I decided I'd work from home semi-permanently. I'm also now basically unemployable, to be honest. The point is that when we're younger, we get caught up in the right now and measuring things and progress and goals. And measuring things is always fraught with danger and disappointment, especially as a man. When we're younger, we get caught up in that rather than looking at the nuance between the then and the now and all the little steps it took and takes to move and change. The perspective you gain while getting older is really an unbelievable gift, if you are open to receiving it. I realise that in fact I've had a blessed and comparatively easy life. Turning 40 won't change that. If anything, it may help me be more grateful for the past, but also the present. That said, what terrifies me about getting old? Firstly, I don't feel invincible anymore. To quote Flight of the Conchords, we're all vincible. My body has already started to fall apart fairly superficially, and I know it will only get worse. I've already got glasses for reading, and I can almost feel my eyesight getting worse. I've got grey hair in my head, and in my facial hair, and I found a couple downstairs. I also wake up sore after light or moderate exercise, and that never used to happen. So all in all, I'm pretty lucky, but I know things are coming. Worse things, disappointing things, and scary things. Things I wouldn't even have to think about if I was 20 years younger. Here are some of those things. Firstly, while my eyes are already in decline, I'm sure my hearing will follow in due course. I'm definitely becoming more forgetful, or at least I just can't remember as much stuff as I used to, and it's just harder to remember things in great detail. Research is showing that this may be the result of a change in what information the brain focuses on during memory formation and retrieval as you age. So it's not me, it's my various brain cortexes. Still, that doesn't help me remember the details of the presentation I'm meant to give when I'm on stage. Thanks, brain. I might occasionally forget a person's name, but recall it later on in the day, and I misplace the odd thing every now and again. Well, at least I don't lose my wallet in a bar anymore, or my phone. These changes in memory are generally manageable, but I do have some dementia in my family history, which is something I'm really aware of, and just have to keep in the back of my mind, or the front, or whatever cortex will help me remember it. Also, as I get older, apparently sex might be harder than it once was. Most men over 40 experience some form of sexual difficulty. Hooray! Premature ejaculation becomes more common than it may already be. Retrograde ejaculation, kind of sounds like year 12 physics. Retrograde ejaculation. I had to Google this. Apparently it's when your ejaculation goes inside instead of out. Who knew that was a thing? Erectile dysfunction also becomes more common, aka Mr. Floppy. This happens when there is not enough blood flow to the penis, preventing an erection. Causes are largely physical, but there can be psychological and lifestyle causes as well. Lifestyle factors that can play a role include drug use, alcohol, smoking, obesity, and a sedentary lifestyle, just being lazy. I'm trying to avoid all of the above lifestyle choices, but erectile dysfunction can still occur in an otherwise completely healthy person, both physically and psychologically. And that's just what men can expect, let alone what women go through as well with regards to sex life. Another thing which will change is my sex drive will become lower than it used to be. This might be a good benefit though, as a lower sex drive is probably better than sexual frustration? Maybe? Either way, a loss of sex drive can affect both men and women, and for some of the same reasons: stress, depression, all those sort of things. The downside for men is the loss of desire for sex can also result in a decrease in testosterone levels. Low testosterone levels may result in a decline in physical energy, strength, stamina, and mental capacity, as well as just getting more aches and pains in the bones and the joints than we normally would, and also weight gain. So no sex causes weight gain, leading to less sex because, not sexually attractive anymore, and sexual dysfunction leading back to weight gain. Cue the spiraling vicious cycle. It's also more difficult to lose weight, and you can't drink as much alcohol as you once could when you get a bit older. These are more superficial, but it's definitely harder to move weight off and extremely easy to move weight on after turning 40. What happens to our bodies after 40 is a threesome of weight gain factors. Our hormones change, our metabolism slows down, our muscle mass decreases every year. That muscle can actually help protect us from gaining weight because it's more metabolically active. When we lose that muscle, our metabolisms drop even more. If you've managed to keep your weight the same over the years with exercise, which I pretty much have and will definitely try to still do, well, as much as I would like to have a pint of beer every now and again, then unfortunately that probably isn't going to prevent the spread of weight as your weight shifts into different places. I'm really hopeful it ends up in my feet. So weight is hard to get off. Alcohol? Yeah, I can't really remember the last time I had too much to drink, but who can? Seriously though, the chance and ability to have one too many barely exists now, and really isn't worth the recovery time anymore. And this is where it gets a bit scary. When you turn 40, you're more likely to get certain cancers. Now this is serious. I've had 2 male friends in their early 40s be diagnosed with different cancers in the last 12 months. Matty, who's on the podcast, has already had testicular cancer when he was in his 20s. What I'm considering towards being proactive on this is getting a private blood test just to make sure stuff in my blood is normal. To me, this is $300 well spent. And then just doing my routine checkups from age 40. Crapping in a box? Yes, I'm going to do that. Doctor's fingers up my bum to check my prostate? Yes, I'm going to do that. Seriously, I'm glad this stuff is free or gets bulk billed, but for someone to open my box of poo or for the doctor to be paid the same for diagnosing a cold as seeing my butthole and putting a finger up there somehow does not seem fair. But such is life. Seriously though, fuck cancer. What terrifies me almost as much as getting sick is a lack of relevance, a lack of achievement, a lack of motivation, aka mental health issues. Mental health issues are becoming more visible. Suicide is becoming more visible. I see this in people. I've seen this in my friends, close friends. It hurts. They hurt. You get older and you think more about life and what it even means. We all want and may even need to feel like we can do something meaningful. What are the answers to the question of life, the universe, and everything? And it's probably not 42, though I'm not there yet. Maybe better questions are, can you still have an impact in this world? Does that even matter? Do you still matter? Of course you do. Is this what I wanted? Is this what I want? Do you even know what you want? What makes you happy? Are you happy? Start at the bottom, or start small and work up with these questions. If you're not feeling okay, talk to someone. Get them to ask you questions. Uncomfortable questions. It's the uncomfortable questions and the answers to these questions that will eventually lead you to make you feel better. And only you can do that. Understand that turning 40 is often a time of reflection and transition. I do. Getting older might not be a cause for celebration, but equally, getting older is not a cause for utter despair. There's work that all of us must do on ourselves and on each other. We must stay motivated. We must do something, no matter how large or small the task. We must just do something. So today I turn 40, and that's just fine. Catch you all next week.
Bye bye. Bye bye.